Welcome to the EWI Roles and Responsibilities module. This particular module is going to walk you through each of the titles that is involved with building and growing a chapter, running a chapter, putting it out there. You'll see this as we kind of go through. Each person definitely belongs as part of an EWI chapter. There is room for everybody, and everybody has a role to play. But there's also responsibilities involved with doing the work to make sure that the chapter not only retains and is engaging, but also grows. The first role is president. There is always going to be a leader at this head of the table. This president serves as chief executive officer of the chapter. They preside at all the meetings, so board meetings, they conduct the meetings, they follow Robert's Rules of Order, serve as a member of the chapter board with overall responsibility for the business of the chapter, serve as ex officio member of all committees except the nominating committee, and establish chapter standing committees and ad hoc committees, and vote only to break a tie. So there's specific things that a president of a chapter is responsible for, and that's overseeing everything else within the chapter itself. Not doing all of the work themselves, but overseeing that everything is running smoothly. The president-elect, also called the vice president, is vested with all of the powers and will perform the duties of the chapter president in case of the absence or disability of that president. Other powers to perform other duties may be delegated by the chapter president or the chapter board. And I apologize for this screen. I noticed that my bullet points are a little off, so I do apologize for that. But the president-elect, what they will do is be the greatest support system for the current president of the board. And the president, in turn, will help mentor the president-elect, the VP, into their new station as terms rotate. The secretary is to keep and have charge of the minutes of all the business meetings of the chapter and chapter board. They serve the notices of all business meetings, and they sign the official documents along with the chapter president in the name of the chapter. They keep the seal, the bylaws, other such papers. So they are holders of the information. They perform all the duties incident to the office of secretary, and in the absence of the secretary, the president may appoint any representative to act as secretary at meetings, different things that may happen throughout the term of the business of EWI. The treasurer. There is a lot of layers and detail that goes along with treasurer. Because EWI is a 501c3, there are additional forms that have to be done every year. So this treasurer has to fulfill duties and responsibilities according to general fund as well as a BCDP document funds. They are the financial officer of the chapter, and they account for all receipts and disbursements in a consistent and timely manner according with accepted accounting practices. This means they basically hold the budget and keep us accountable to making sure that we stay within budget, create profit margin for operating, but also keep in line with what is required as a 501c3 for the BCDP account. Because, as you see here, the note, the IRS mandates a no commingling of operating funds and EWI BCDP funds. If that happens, there are serious ramifications across the entire organization. So a treasurer's role is to be very detail-oriented to make sure that we're falling in line with all the rules and regulations when it comes to the fiduciary responsibility for EWI. Membership, Sergeant-at-Arms in particular. They're responsible for keeping complete records of the representatives' attendance at meetings of the chapters. This includes receive all the reservations, communicate necessary information, prepare lists of guests to be expected, oversee the check-in, be responsible for the conduct of chapter meetings, maintain attendance records, and provide attendance reports at meetings of the chapter board. This is the person that's helping to keep track of the members and guests and how the people flow in and flow out of EWI chapter levels. Membership for recruitment and retention. This director, recruitment and retention director, will lead and direct recruitment and retention committee in the retention of existing member firms, recruitment and orientation of new member firms, and replacement representatives and referral of potential member firms to other chapters. This recruitment and retention person should be working hand in hand with everybody across the entire chapter board organization so that everything is flowing from the strategy of how do we recruit and how do we retain, so that they are providing ideas for programming and also being able to engage current members wherever needed. The ideas, and then assign people. Like, every chapter is going to be a little different, but the roles and responsibilities will remain the same. Retention and recruitment director heads those things up. Some chapters are able to split those positions into a recruitment director and a retention director. Some chapters have all membership, sergeant at arms, recruitment, and retention all under the same directorship. It depends on your chapter level what you have capability to do and capacity. Programs. The program director will have general charge of planning and arranging the programs for the regular meetings of the chapter. This means as ideas are coming forth from the chapter, because you don't have to come up with everything, as ideas come forth, you're in general charge of planning and arranging those programs. So there's a long list of ideas, lengthy ways to do it, even procedures. If your chapter has a specific programs procedures, follow those procedures. If they don't, you could probably find that resource on the My EWI Resource Hub. Communications, also publicity. The communication director is responsible for preparation, publication, distribution of EWI Connect newsletters, as well as managing the social media presence. This requires all hands on deck for content purposes. So again, this director doesn't do everything by themselves. They want to work in conjunction with the help of the rest of the organization at that chapter level to be able to then compile and coordinate everything that needs to be done for communication's sake. Fundraising. Sometimes the scariest position, but it can also be the most fun position. The chair of the fundraising committee is in planning and carrying out special activities for the purpose of supplementing chapter operating funds and or fundraising activities to support the chapter's BCDP. And understand, when you do fundraising specifically for your BCDP account, it will have to be stated specifically for that, and the funds are earmarked specifically for that. So again, helping with the treasurer's help, keeping things aligned according to what we were required to do to keep that particular account clean. And then always talk with your chapter president and treasurer about the proposed budget for the year in order to establish those fundraising goals. So then you can develop the activities that will help achieve the goals. Director at large. This is an optional director position. The chapter board determines whether it's going to be added or not used at all. The director at large must meet the same qualifications as other members of the chapter board of directors. There are some smaller chapters that will use the director at large past the initial president, president-elect, treasurer, and secretary, so that those directors at large can fluctuate between other roles and responsibilities, take on multiple roles, or however that needs to look. Other committees include budget, nominating, scholarship, advisory, bylaws, standing rules, and literacy reading rally. And these are just a few that are listed in a resource called the Chapter Resource Guide, which can also be found on your My EWI Resource Hub. The chapter resource guide will have all kinds of information that includes roles and responsibilities, that includes ideas, that gives you a framework for a successful chapter, how to get started, a code of conduct, key chapter events, board and advisor positions summary, how to have a quorum and voting during your business meetings, how to develop a strategic plan, and other really informational things are included in the chapter resource guide. The other resource that you have is your bylaws and standing rules. These are the documents that should give you structure as well as some direction on what to do when, according to, let's say, travel to LCAM, or meeting policies, or different things like attendance requirements. So all of that can be listed within your bylaws, and the bylaws are separate from your standing rules. The standing rules become more policy pieces. My EWI, that is your online resource for pretty much everything EWI, from all of the things that you may need for marketing elements like logos and templates, all the way to standing rule templates, the corporate bylaws, the chapter resource guide, um, executive letters, fundraising letters, everything that you can possibly think to need to supplement the work within your chapter can be found through your My EWI Resource Hub. You can also contact your membership advisor, and they can help guide you to where you need for your specific resource, or how to do a specific thing within the role that you are responsible for. And we also have the corporate office. They are always willing to help in any situation that we may have. So don't be afraid to reach out through other chapters via the My EWI, your membership advisor, corporate office. And again, you can always refer to the chapter resource guide, your bylaws, and standing rules. And that is a general overview for EWI roles and responsibilities.